Tigers lose, and people are up in arms over the Tigers losing to the number 3 team in the country. Tigers started a freshman quarterback making his very first start. Okay, Matt Zollers. He was 19 years old, doing so against the number 3 team in the country that happens to play in the SEC and very well could be the national champion this year. Now, granted, I will grant you that a very good Mizzou defense got leaned on by a very talented Texas A&M offense. And we've talked about this before. Yeah.
Has that been a short way to describe any other Mizzou games this season? Very talented defense getting leaned on by a talented squad.
Not to that extent, no.
You don't think so? I mean, no, not to the point spread extent, but I mean, felt a little bit like, like parts of the Vanderbilt game and a lot of the Alabama game.
I thought the defense played great against Vanderbilt.
I thought they did. I mean, I just think they were eventually, though, when the only thing you have to reply.
Didn't they only score 17 points?
Yeah, but when the only thing you have to rely on is the defense playing perfect, the 1 or 2 bad plays are always going to stick out more. And my point is that if the defense gets any more help from the offense in either of those other 2 games or any of these 3 games, Mizzou's 2-1 or maybe even 3-0.
See, and there's your issue. Your big guys. This whole sport starts up front on the offense.
Hidden and urine.
Hidden and urine. Yep. Take hidden, beat urine. Take urine and beat hidden. You remember when we had Dan Deerdorf on the radio show, and he said his favorite thing was to, in the fourth quarter, have his opponent. If Dan wanted him to move left, he moved left. If Dan wanted him to move right, he moved right. If Dan wanted him to move back, he moved back. That is what an offensive lineman wants to do. That's what was happening for the Texas A&M offensive lineman against Missouri on Saturday. And it's the opposite of what was happening for the Missouri offensive lineman against Texas A&M. Let me give you a statistic that's kind of fun here. Well, it's not fun if you're a Mizzou.
I was going to say, describe fun.
Yeah.
Interesting, intriguing.
It is interesting and intriguing. And it's about the ability of a team to lean on the opposition. And here we go. And this happened. Remember the Georgia game a couple of years ago when Mizzou was in it in the fourth quarter?
Oh, yeah.
And the Georgia was able to lean on them. Okay, so I know this is going to sound like there's too much there, and there might be, but I just want to give you an idea, and I don't have a font. So here we go. In the first quarter, the Aggie offense ran 22 plays for 95 yards, 8 carries for 9 yards, 8 running plays for 9 yards, okay? Second quarter, they ran 14 plays for 53 yards, 8 carries for 14 yards on the ground. Okay, so 8 carries in the first quarter, 8 carries in the second quarter, total of 23 yards on the ground. Third quarter, A&M, after their coach, Mike Elko, told his lines, hey, go out and dominate the line of scrimmage. Third quarter, they run 14 plays for 149 yards, 7 carries for 81 on the ground. And then, after they kind of softened up the Mizzou defense in the fourth quarter, they ran 18 plays for 167 yards, 16 for 139 on the ground.
So in the first half, that's what, 5 or 6 yards per play. In the second half, it's 10 yards per play and 9 yards per play.
So the carries went 8, 8, 7, and 16. The yards went 9, 14, 81, and 139. And that's what big physical teams can do to a team that is not prepared for, and they can never be prepared for a physical game like that. And there are schools, hey, even when Jimbo Fisher was at A&M, they were always a top 5 or 10 recruiting program. Alabama does that. They beat Missouri that way. Georgia does that. They've beat Missouri a lot over the years. It's just the way it is, and it's the way it has been. And until Mizzou starts getting those big guys that are better than the other team's big guys, the sport's all about your big guys being better than the other team's big guys. Until you make that happen, it's not going to happen for you. One other quick point, by the way, in regards to softening up a defense. Ahmad Hardy, as you know, probably had a 40-yard run on the first play of the game. 3 carries for 44 in the first quarter. Did not touch the ball in the second quarter. Did not. So how's he supposed to get into a running rhythm? How's the offensive line supposed to get into a running rhythm for Hardy if he doesn't see the ball? Now, Roberts, to his credit, did pretty well. He got 10 carries in the second quarter. And then they had a pretty even split. It was something like 10 and 7 in the second half. And Hardy had another big run for a touchdown later. But it seems to me that if this team is going to have a successful game with a freshman quarterback making his first start, they have to run the ball, they have to commit to the run, and they have to use their best running back.
Yeah, I would agree with all that. And I know there's important factors in maybe some of the carries at some of the points. You know, I think it's fair to say that it looked that like Jamal Roberts was doing a better job picking up those third down blitzes. Mm-hmm. He's a better receiver out of the backfield. Anyone's a better receiver out of the backfield when Matt Zollers isn't gunning it in like Mason Wynn. But that's another thing entirely. For me, it's less about which running back they're using and more about just like the overall timing and commitment to the rhythm of the offense. Because Jamal Roberts is running the ball well. For me, I mean, a couple of those carries, a couple of those like 7-yard carries that Roberts has, and I know maybe this is getting too in the nitty gritty, but a couple of those 7-8-yard carries that he got were on 3rd and 10. Where for some reason Kirby Moore was just capitulating the drive, and that's something I'm not seeing a lot. That really weirded me out. Is it wasn't just the overall blandness in the play calling, because I think maybe that's too oversimplified. Maybe we don't know enough to really comment on that. But for me, the situational play calling of just run or pass. I mean, there were a bunch of those runs that were against soft boxes at bad times when Texas A&M wanted them to run and get 6 yards because that's the easier route for them defensively to get off the field. For me, my big thing that I want to criticize, or my criticism for the offense is, and this goes back all the way to the South Carolina game. So the one thing we saw from this offense in the first 3 games of the season that we have not seen really in any of the last 5, except for maybe the non-conference game in there, but none of the SEC games they've played. What happened to the consistent short game? What happened to those little 6-yard curl routes that Coleman was eating up yardage, giving you a 2nd and 4, or eating up 2nd and 8 and turning it into a 3rd and 1. I know they didn't have Norfleet, but getting the tight end into the flat and actually hitting him for a little 4-yard gain. Those routes just have never been part of the offense in SEC play for some reason, and it's hampered the offense in the rhythm of the offense against South Carolina, and it doomed them against Alabama, and it doomed them against Texas A&M because it takes Kevin Coleman out of the offense. He had a big game against Bama, but he had 1 catch against Bama and 1 catch against Texas A&M. As much as we want to talk about the running game, at different times they got that going. You can complain about which running back got the ball. They were not putting the ball in Kevin Coleman's hands and points for him to win. And that's one of the things that DRINKWITZ talked about, where he didn't put the team in a place to win.
That is fair. And he fell on the sword, which he should have in that game. Now, I know there's a lot of people that are down on Eli DRINKWITZ. Guess how many coaches in the history of Mizzou football have had back-to-back 10-win seasons?
I believe that there's 2 of them.
There are. Gary Pinkel did it twice. And Eli DRINKWITZ in 23 and 24 with an 11-2 season and a 10-3 season.
And my favorite thing about that is too, if you're on that Mizzou football column, you go ahead and sort by wins really quickly. You're going to notice something, which is there is only one person in the history of Mizzou football who has ever hit 12 wins, and that is Gary Pinkel.